Today we're going to make an aquarium using 1-point perspective. This is something like what it should look like. To do this, we're going to use watercolor paper. Should have some thickness to it. We'll use a ruler, a sharpie, a pencil, and some watercolor paint. I'm going to start off with my ruler, and ideally I want it to reach to the corners of my paper diagonally. If your ruler is not quite long enough, you can kind of float it in the middle. You can draw this with a pencil. I'm going to go ahead and draw it right away with a Sharpie so it's easier for you to see. Next, I'm going to do the same thing by connecting the other two corners of my paper. This will make an X right in the middle. Next, I'm going to line my ruler up right in the middle of my paper, and I'm going to make a vertical line from the center to the bottom of my paper. Then I'm going to make a mark between that line and the corner, just to kind of mark about halfway. I'm going to draw a line from that mark to the center of my paper as well. I'm trying to be very careful not to move my ruler as I make these marks. I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm making a mark that's about halfway in between the other two, and then I will connect that to the center point of my paper. This gives the illusion that you're going into the paper, into the space. Now I'm making a horizontal line. I'm lining up my ruler with the bottom of my paper, and I'm drawing a line in between my two diagonal lines, like so. I'm going to line my ruler up with that line and do the same thing in between my two diagonal lines on the outsides. And I'm going to do it one more time, in between my two diagonal lines. This also gives you the impression that you're moving into the paper. It helps with our 1-point perspective. Next, I'm going to line my ruler up vertically. I'm going to leave a little bit of space along the outside of my paper, and I'm going to draw a line connecting these two diagonal lines. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Try to make it in about the same spot, so I have a little bit of space left on the outside of my paper. And I'm going to go ahead and add that line in as well. And then I'm going to connect those two lines on the top by making a horizontal line. This is basically making a larger rectangle on my paper. These will be the seams of the aquarium. So an aquarium, of course, is made of glass. It has glass walls. And so I'm adding these extra lines here to make the seams of the aquarium. It also helps give the illusion that you're moving into space. I'm adding vertical lines again on the inside. Try to do about halfway in between the ones that I made before, and then adding a vertical line as well, or a horizontal line. You can see now I have another kind of rectangular shape. Now I want to go ahead and color my floor, and I'm going to do that by marking in every other shape. So I started with the first row and I did those two. Now the second row I'm going to do the opposite so that it looks like kind of a checkerboard. So each row I'm only going to put a mark in every other shape so I know which ones to color. Now I'm going to go ahead and color those in with my black Sharpie. This part of my picture is going to remain black and white. I will not be painting on it at all later. I continued coloring. You can see that I've filled them all in nice and neat. Now I'm going to start adding in my sea creatures. Now I'm going to start off closer to the sides of my paper. The first animal I'm going to draw is a shark, but you can pick any animal that you would see in an aquarium in your picture. I'm going to make sure that the animals that I draw first are rather large. I want those to be closer to me. So any animals that are close to the edges on the sides or on the top should be larger than the ones that are farther away or towards the middle of the paper. I'm going to work on the right side and make a larger animal as well, this time a sea turtle. Now your animals can go a little bit off the sides of the paper. The aquarium can kind of go off the paper as well. I'm adding some fins to my sea turtle. I added a nice big shell and of course the head. I'm also going to do larger animals on the top. I think I'll do a school of fish up here. So I want to start off with some larger fish bodies. Then I'll add a tail and a couple of fins, maybe one on the bottom and one on the top. I'll do a couple other larger fish too. This one will be a tiny bit smaller because it's a little bit farther away. And then the one on the top should be nice and big as well because that's closer up. Notice that some of the fin goes off the page, and that's just fine. Another animal I decided to add is a stingray. Starts off with kind of a soft diamond looking shape. I'm adding the little tail or the stinger, and I got that in there as well. Those are my larger ones. Now as I work towards the middle, my fish or other animals have to get smaller. So now I'll do a smaller school of fish that are swimming together. And it really doesn't matter what direction you have them swimming because fish like to go in all different directions in the aquarium. I'll make another fish over here. Maybe I'll throw in another shark actually. This one is going to be a lot smaller than my other one because it's farther away. This will give your picture depth, making things look closer or farther away. I'll add a couple other little fish over here. And just trying to think of different things to add. You could add all kinds of underwater creatures. There's all kinds of different fish, of course. You could throw an octopus in there, a jellyfish, really whatever you can think of or imagine. Even some little seahorses. You could put Nemo in there. There's all kinds of beautiful things that live in the ocean. At the very center of my picture should be the very smallest of the animals that I add. So I'm just going to put some real teeny tiny fish. Those would be the farthest away. Now, an aquarium usually has some type of coral or seaweed or a little bit of both. So I'm going to make some kind of rock looking coral. Maybe I'll throw in a couple plants. And the same thing that I did with the animals needs to happen with the plants and the coral. The stuff that's towards the ends of the paper closest to us should be bigger, and then as it gets towards the center of the paper, it should get smaller and smaller. Very important to think about all these things as you are drawing your pictures. I'm going to go ahead and outline with Sharpie all of the things that I just drew so that they stand out. Here you can see everything that I've added with a Sharpie. I threw in a couple jellyfish and all kinds of fun things. Now it's time to paint. I recommend starting off with blue. It's good to just kind of fill in everything around your fish and your plants with blue first. I'm going to be really careful as I go next to all my edges and try to get everything nice and filled in. You can see I'm using my watercolor. I'm dipping my brush in water and then going back in with the blue and trying to fill in all of the areas around all of my different fish. I'm trying to be very careful as I get close to the floor where my checkerboard pattern is so I don't get any paint on that. Now some fish may be painted darker. Like let's say you're going to paint your shark maybe a darker gray. It wouldn't be a big deal then if you got some blue on that. But these little fish right here are going to be yellow, so I don't want to get any blue paint in those fish because then it will blend and make green. As I am painting around each fish, I'm thinking about some fun colors I could use to fill them in. I like to use all kinds of different colors to create my look. Now, the sharks might be kind of a shade of gray, and if you don't have gray, you could always use black with a little bit of extra water, or you could maybe mix purple and black with a lot of water, and that would give it a nice look for your shark color. Now the rocks in my picture are also going to be painted, and I think I might mix a little bit of blue and purple to create a look for my rocks. So most of the time things kind of have a blue tint when they're underwater because you're seeing them through other water, so I like to kind of add this purpley look to my blue, and I'm even adding it back here and along the bottom. Even though I didn't draw it in with my Sharpie, it kind of indicates that there's some other stuff going on back there. I'm using my bluish purple mix over here to make some kind of rock looking things going on to kind of go around some of the coral and the seaweed. With this too, I'm trying to be careful and go around my animals like my sea turtle because I don't want that to be purple too. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and paint all of my animals. And here you see I've gone through and done that. So I added lots of colors. I painted in all the different animals. I tried to get most of the colors of the rainbow going on just to make it nice and fun. And I left the floor without any paint on it, just the Sharpie and the white paper. So there you have it. I'm loving this aquarium and I'm hoping that you love yours as well. Thanks so much for painting with me today, guys. We'll see you next time.